nOw.
And welcome back, everyone, to another episode of nOw, the Nerds of Wrestling podcast, hosted by Dose of Nerd Acumen. I'm here again with Cody and Trevor, and of course myself, Travis.
Hey, what's up, guys?
How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Doing good. How about you?
Good. Glad to have you guys back. Tonight's an exciting one because Cody had picked a really cool pay-per-view to talk about. So for this episode, the format will go as follows. We have two segments: the current state of wrestling, if you've watched in the past week since our last episode, as this one is just a week after the return episode. And then our second segment, we're going to be doing a retro review recap. And it's about SummerSlam 2002. So let's kick things off with our first segment. The biggest question I have, did you guys watch wrestling this week?
Yes, I did.
Yep. The only thing I didn't watch was Impact.
So the conversation will basically be covering potentially Impact if Cody watched. I did not, admittedly. Any Ring of Honor new content, if you watched AEW content, NXT, SmackDown, Raw, anything else that you may have caught also in the world of wrestling, AAA, New Japan, anything you want to talk about or bring up that happened this week that you found interesting. Admittedly, I only watched the first 2 hours of Raw, and that is all the wrestling content I watched as far as new content this week. I spent the other free time watching SummerSlam 2002 for that segment, as well as you guys know already, listeners, you may not know, I am relocating to a new home. So I bought a house, and it's time consuming as far as moving.
Drink it in.
MX, thank you for the sub. For those wondering too, we do this live on Sundays on Twitch. If you want to be part of the conversation, we'll try to respond to chat as best we can. Can't guarantee, quick response if somebody's like in a deep thought or something, and we miss your chat. I apologize in advance for that. But we'll do our best. So if either of you want to kick off your thoughts and feelings or anything that happened that you want to highlight this week in the world of wrestling, feel free to do so. Whoever wants to chime in.
I know I'm probably going to do more of the not so mainstream recaps. So, Trevor, if you want to start with Raw, SmackDown, NXT.
Raw, The Fiend and Alexa Bliss right now. One of the best angles they have going in all of WWE, I think. When they came out and did the double Sister Abigail on Selena Vega and Andrade. Alexa is amazing, I think, as Sister Abigail. If that's what they're going with. I don't think they've officially called her that.
Yeah, I don't believe they've acknowledged that directly, but I think ultimately they're building something here. We'll have other followers, assuming.
Also, Ricochet Eddie Guerrero tribute. That was pretty funny. The way he sold it too, all dramatic.
Yeah, his fall was a little too much for me. But with his hand on his head, like he fainted, like a 1940s movie.
Yeah, it was a little much, but it was still pretty funny.
No, it was definitely good.
I don't think I caught that part. What was that on? Was that on Raw?
So
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, so Ricochet had a steel chair that was slid into the ring. He called it.
MVP slid it into Cedric.
Yeah.
Well, he tried to do.
The ref was, I believe he was turned at the time.
He was
Ricochet
down.
pulled
They had
it,
ran
yeah.
into him.
Ricochet smacked the chair onto the ground, then tossed it to Cedric, and then did the most dramatic feint that I've ever seen. And the ref turned around and saw Cedric holding the chair and went ahead and called the disqualification.
And the the stipulation was if Cedric won, Ricochet had to join the Hurt Business. If Ricochet won, they leave him alone.
Oh, okay. I did see the backstage. That was earlier in the show with that stipulation being made. I found that interesting. I didn't obviously watch the end of it. So what ended up happening? Did he have to join?
No, he won by disqualification.
So he didn't have to join because of that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, what do you guys think as far as the Hurt Business? Are they handling that pretty well, or?
It had its ups and downs to me, but I like the group, but they've handled it kind of poorly in some situations where they've just looked weak because they just get beat down by like Retribution. I mean, that's my thought on it. But.
So speaking of Retribution, I did catch part of the draft. So a lot of the angle with Retribution earlier on where they were against establishment and their tweets about just kind of doing whatever. Very confusing early storyline. That as well had its ups and downs, but I saw they got drafted. That to me diminishes the value of them as what they were trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and that blew my mind as well, because that goes completely against everything that they stand for, is being pretty much held down by authority. So that kind of loses its steam to me and kind of makes it, I don't want to say irrelevant, but kind of pointless.
It really does, for whatever, like you said, whatever they stood for, whatever the point was. It's already been confusing and drawn out much longer than I think they wanted to. We could say the same for some of our own personal booking. If you catch NAW, and that is Tuesdays and Thursdays, a very similar process behind what we wanted to do too with story. But ultimately, yeah, it damaged any credibility they had to that angle they were going with. Hopefully they can recover and do something with it. But that was weird. They even had their font too, which I'm like, really?
Well, then they had the big reveal last week of Ali being the leader, and then nothing this week. They weren't even on there. They were like, "Oh, Ali's the leader." That was all we got.
And that's
but they
it.
did
Okay,
announce
where's the payoff? Where's anything with this story? No, nothing. Oh, they're drafted.
You said they did announce a match though?
Yeah, so they did announce a match. It's Mace versus... I'm trying to think of who they scheduled the match against. I'm blanking on it.
Now, do we know all the members of Retribution?
Yeah, so Dio Madden is Mace, which he'll have his first singles match.
Dijakovic is T-Bar.
Yeah.
Oh, Dijakovic is in Retribution,
and
then.
then
That's confirmed.
Slapjack, I want to say that's Shane Thorne.
Yeah, it
but
is.
his mask is just... His mask kind of covers his whole face, so you can't really tell.
Is he the Predator one?
No, that's Mace.
That's me. Okay.
Yeah, so that's Dio Madden.
And I don't know a lot about him.
Slapjacks is more of like... It kind of reminds me of like a Jason mask of sorts.
Okay.
So it's like a hockey mask, so it covers his entire face, but just his size and the way he moves is very Shane Thornish. So
okay, yeah, because they had the Jason match, they had like the Predator, and then the Bane one, and then there was the other one too. I can't recall. Who's the female?
That's
Dakota Kai? No.
No, that's Mia.
Yeah, Mia Yim.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
which
interesting.
she seems like she's the leader in an odd way.
I mean, like I said, it has potential. It's confusing.
I think they were doing very good with it at first. Right now, they're kind of slowing down the steam. And I think, like you said, with them being drafted, that kind of goes against everything that they stand for. So I feel like they're really gonna have to do something to change everybody's mind on if this is actually a good angle or if this is just something that people are gonna start hitting the snooze button on.
Yeah, and they need to do it quickly because it's been around for several weeks at this point, and wrestling fans can be fickle, especially if things don't kind of happen in a certain time frame. And I mean, you hit it right on the nose with the hit the snooze button. So let's put this hypothetical in your guys' corner. What would you do next if you could book the next thing they do?
Oh,
I'm putting you on the spot, I know.
I think that they need to like disrupt the whole show. Like almost every match, like they do something to interfere.
So Nexus.
Maybe not every match, but yeah, just make them the focal point for like at least a show and show that they are
a force, like they were doing.
Yeah.
honestly, what I think would have been really good for them, and it's too late now because the match happened on Friday. But New Day's last match, I think them interrupting and ruining that match would have been an ultimate heel move and really kind of solidified them as serious heels.
Yeah, I agree with that. They needed a power move, and to go against a moment like that, especially when they've hyped up, I mean, 6 years of a faction like New Day being together. I don't know a single person. And chat, chime in, or if you're listening back, comment below. I don't know a single person that dislikes the New Day. Like, sincerely.
No.
You know what I did dislike? Lana winning the Battle Royal to be the #1 contender. She can't wrestle. She's not good.
Yeah, but you can't always have great... like, with their roster, they can't always have great title matches. And Lana has been getting the ultimate burial, getting thrown through multiple tables weekly, then having Natty turn on her earlier that night.
Natty got her tooth knocked out during that match against Lana.
Against Lana?
Yeah, that night. So when they were facing off during that match.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Lana's been getting punished enough that she's really not that bad of a wrestler. She's kind of slow, and I wouldn't say she's the worst wrestler on the women's roster, especially with the experience that she does have. She has many years of experience. Because before she was with Rusev, she was a diva, wasn't she? A pretty successful one at that. I'm pretty sure she's had the Divas Championship.
That I don't recall. I know her biggest push was with the manager services there. I don't recall a lot of her in-ring work before then. If she did, again, not memorable. Here's the thing to consider too. Is she a credible threat to the women's championship scene? Probably not.
No.
But what else do you book right now? If you're just planning on keeping the belt on the champion, what else do? You give somebody else a spotlight to keep, momentum on the champ.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think you want to really put down some bigger names and more women that are better and potentially could take the title off or be a threat.
Right, because if they lose, it loses that stock.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that Asuka needs to go through some fairly easy matches. Asuka in NXT was amazing and went through everybody. And then when she got to the main roster, she kind of got buried a little bit. So now I think is the time to kind of rebuild her in a way.
Oh, I agree. I think she's a fantastic in-ring worker. The only thing that's ever held her back, and I think it still works, and it's unfair to say this holds her back. She is from a different country. Her main language is a different language. So it's tough to kind of put somebody in that position, but I think she's been fantastic. Speaking of Asuka, obviously, she's been fantastic as far as what she can do on the mic, even with the potential limitations that, maybe English is a second or third language for her.
Yeah, and that's always going to be the thing for WWE. Maybe not NXT, obviously, but for WWE as a whole, Vince cares a lot about speaking ability and the champions representing the company with charities and stuff like that. So he really wants his champions to be like outstanding citizens.
Well, a spokesperson.
Yeah, exactly. Which, if you can't necessarily speak the language, I get it in a way, in a business standpoint. But as far as kind of punishing them for that,
Oh, they definitely should not punish them for it.
yeah.
So you want him to be an outstanding person. So Lars is never going to be the champion.
Oh, God.
And that's the thing. Lars probably will be champion one day, and that's a scary thought.
That sucks. It really sucks. I mean, you could go through the history of WWE. We could probably have a podcast episode about just shitty people in general that have worked for WWE, because there have been a lot. But at the end of the day, this is an entertainment company, and it's a show, right? That's what they're trying to do, is put on a show. I mean, any business has just shitty people. It sucks. There's going to be good and bad people everywhere. But it's entertainment. And if people are buying in, capitalism, right? Again, these are whole other conversations for another show. But as far as credibility, to kind of close that thought, yeah, I don't want to say it's unfortunate, truly, because, great for Lana. She's getting some recognition. I don't know if it's a contract negotiation to try to save her from going with her husband to AEW, because Vince pulls things like that. It's been done in the past. It's being done today. It'll be continue to be done, because that's how you keep people, right? Your stock is in your TV time. And if you're in the main event for a title, you're raising your stock value if you were to ever go to another company. It's why people like Drew McIntyre, who got fired, got to go main event elsewhere and come back, and now look at him. You raise your stock value by becoming a champion somewhere.
Well, even a better point to that, look at James Ellsworth. James Ellsworth got a win over AJ Styles, and he started main eventing the Indies right after.
Yeah, he became more recognizable. And that's it. Your
Absolutely.
Stock went up. So, and that's what it is for entertainers, right? This is what they do. This is their livelihood. More camera time, more face time, more stock value. So it's a good leverage move, win or lose, for Lana. And for the company, it's a leverage move to try to get her to stay and not go to AEW. Which inevitably, she'll probably end up in AEW. And I don't blame her. Why work for an opposing company from your husband when you can just go work and be with your husband?
Ask Renee Young.
Exactly. Another great example. She has reasons, too, not to go on a whole another, thing.
We tend to do that.
There's no true format to our show as you'll listen to us. This could be good and bad, but to make the long story short, basically she just didn't feel like she was treated properly. She did get COVID this year, and the company didn't handle it well. They were more upset about her speaking out that she tested positive before speaking with them, and that was the only time they were even concerned about her well-being. I'm sure there was more to the story and other things that we just don't know about, but I'm assuming that's the straw that broke the camel's back. My opinion.
I agree.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, like, I forgot who said it too. I think it was Roman Reigns. He said in a, and I don't know if this was real life or character or what, but he said on social media in an interview, basically, hey, if I never came back to this business or WWE, that's fine. I accomplished everything I needed to accomplish. Main event of WrestleMania, as the champion, did everything. Even though I'm young, if I never get to come back, he made peace with that. And I think it's one of those things too for Renee Young. She achieved the status that she broke walls, barriers, for women in the industry.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things. Where's the glass ceiling? Stop and start. Can she achieve more? Maybe. But what she did accomplish is more than anyone ever has in her position, and that's incredible. So for her to just be like, you know what? I'm happy with what I accomplished and what barriers I broke for women. I'm going to go be with my husband now because I've done it. What more can I do? So anyway, that turned into much longer anything that I had initially
It's
planned.
all good.
Continuing on with the state of wrestling, anything else we want to highlight maybe from Raw and before we move on to the other events that occurred?
Yeah,
Elias is
so
back.
Say it again.
Elias is back,
I did see that.
and he's a heel again.
Which I
I'm
like.
pretty sure he was a face, wasn't he, when he left?
he was a tweener.
Yeah. I think they just didn't know what to do with him. A quick shout out, Herman. He says, aloha, friends, just popping in to say hi. Then back to building a pirate ship 24 feet long, 8 feet wide. Worst month to have to take away, but love you all. Love you, Herman, man. That's a lot of work. A pirate ship. Oh, damn. Back to Elias, though.
I like Elias, and I think he does make a better heel, so that's actually a good thing.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah, Elias is another one of those kind of like Corbin that is very great, but will he ever get the push that he's gonna be deserving of?
With this gimmick, I don't think so. I think he's interesting. He is a mid-card champion at best, which I believe he has accomplished. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I can't remember.
That's the thing I'm trying to think on that. Has he won the IC or US? But I personally, with the character he has now, unless there's some incredible stock interest in him go up, I don't see him breaking past that. His physicality, his appearance, he's got it. He's got the appeal. The dude is jacked. I never was more excited when he had that moment. I'm trying to remember when it was. But he had a moment, a back and forth, where he got basically embarrassed by John Cena. Was it Mania? A year ago? Not this year, but the year prior?
The year that John Cena and The Undertaker had their match.
That was that year.
Yeah.
He looked fantastic. I was excited for that moment for him. He had deserved that.
According to Wikipedia, he has never won the IC title. He's won the 24/7 championship 4 times.
And that's it, man. All right, so I still stand by what I say. He's a mid-card champion at best with the current gimmick he has. I think he'll achieve that.
He just reminds me so much of Macho Man.
Yeah, I could see that, and that might be why I have the appeal towards him, because Macho Man is one of my favorites of all time.
The look is there,
Mm-hmm.
and his demeanor and his wrestling style is all very similar.
The persona is a lot inspired by Jarrett, Honky Tonk Man, a lot of those legends. And I think he incorporates all of those very well. And then again, his physical size and stature, I think that will help him. He just needs to get into the next phase of what he will be. And I think there is great potential. Just as of right now, he won't achieve much more than that.
Unfortunately.
Truly unfortunate.
Yeah.
But
That's
hey,
all I
maybe
remember
it'll
for
change
Raw.
because of the lack of people that are on the roster right now. So, any closing thoughts on the draft? I know we talked about that quite a bit on the first episode. If you missed that one, check us out on our first episode back. But any closing thoughts on the draft?
I'm glad that the Fiend's on Raw and they brought Alexa too, because get him away from Roman and then all that losing.
Yeah. Atticus, my son, is upset about that because he stays up late to watch SmackDown. Obviously, he doesn't for Raw, so he's upset about that one.
I will say I'm not too happy with the draft. I was more excited about it when it was announced because it had so much potential to it, kind of like the drafts from the past that we grew up with. But this one, they really didn't do anything surprising. They kind of kept everybody together with storylines going on, like Seth and Buddy Murphy and the Mysterios, just all moving brands. I really don't think they did anything to really help us get better, more interesting matchups for the next year or so before they do another one.
Yeah, it really didn't set up anything for the future. Like we had talked about, hoping, because this is their time to build into Rumble to then build to Mania. Personally, my stance on it is that it was more so put in place because of USA Network and Fox, because obviously conflicting networks, even though they're not at the same time, it's still two different networks fighting for exclusive characters. So I think there was something under Fox saying, hey, our ratings, we're not where we want to be at, but we want these people. How do we make that happen? So I think it was corporate appeasing is why we got this particular draft. Thanks for the host, DKA. So again, my thoughts, I don't know how accurate that is. You can call me out
No,
on
I mean
my
it makes
thoughts.
sense though, and that's most likely what it boils down to. It's the networks trying to get more views.
Money.
The New Day splitting up is still
That was
probably
shocking.
one of the biggest moments.
That sucked. I was not a fan of that. But I get
I
it.
don't think they'll bring them back together later on, so that'll be a big feel-good moment.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a reunion obviously is inevitable. This will be good, hopefully, for Big E as a single star. Hopefully he gets the push he deserves. We talked about that before. Shout out to DKA. The Packers lost. My sister-in-law will be upset about that. It sucks.
But, I mean, he's on SmackDown. I don't see them making him beat Roman for a while.
They should, though. God, they should, though.
Especially if they're building Roman up to face The Rock, if they can get him.
Which
Well,
they,
yeah, that's in the
they
works.
will.
From what I've heard, The Rock has been asking for the match. So it's not the other way around. It's not that WWE's asking The Rock to face Roman at Mania. It's The Rock asking to face Roman at Mania.
Well, he wants to put Roman over. Do you recall that Rumble? It was the Rumble, right? That Roman won? And
Yeah.
Rock was
And
there to
then
help
Rock
him.
came out there
His
and got
face.
booed.
His face when he got booed. He was like, what the hell? Where have I been? Like, am I not watching the same product? He was so lost. That was a great moment. The fact that he got booed was great. Not that
The
Roman
crowd
won.
chanting, "Die, Rocky, die."
Yeah. Speaking of, which we'll actually get into in our main segment here after we do the recap, that'll get brought back up again as a fun fact. Spoiler alert. DK in chat says, I think that they're going to have a Big E change his look up and get pushed. I could see that. And DK also says, yeah, Rock wants to help Roman get over. Good luck with that. It's possible, but
I could
you know.
see it, but I don't want it to happen.
Oh, I don't either. Too late.
I think that Big E shouldn't change. As I know you were just talking about The Rock and Roman.
Oh yeah. You're talking about Big E. Go on.
Yeah, I was talking about Big E changing. I really don't think he should change. I think he should eventually push more heel than face.
I agree.
But I think he should stay with the old New Day heel gimmick, kind of like we talked about last week, where he's just sarcastic and kind of an asshole, but a funny asshole.
I agree, 100%. I think that would do wonders. All right, so moving on from Raw, we have, of course, NXT or SmackDown. Do we want to bring that up before we talk about other promotions?
Was okay.
Ridge Holland, that was a gruesome injury. I don't know if you guys saw that. He caught Oney Lorcan on a suicide dive and his knee gave out. So that's pretty big for NXT, as they've been pretty injury plagued lately. Losing the guy that just carried Adam Cole to ringside at the pay-per-view and dropped him ringside. Clearly he was going to get a push, and now he's going to be out for a long, long time.
Yeah, the timing of that sucks. And the NXT champion, did we ever figure out his injuries?
He has 2 broken bones in his jaw, and Kyle O'Reilly had broken ribs.
And Balor was hurt as well.
Yeah, Balor got 2 broken bones in his jaw.
Yeah, he had surgery on his jaw.
Well, who's, God, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank now. NXT champion,
Oh, you're talking about Killer Cross. Well, Karrion Cross.
Yeah, Karrion. Yeah, he got hurt too.
Yeah, he got hurt. That's why he had to vacate the title. Obviously,
Oh, he did end
he
up
seems
vacating.
like
See, I didn't watch, so
yeah,
I don't know.
he vacated the
Ba-
title. Then Finn
Balor's
Balor ended up winning it,
yeah, Balor's the champ right now.
and then
Gotcha.
Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly just had a match at the last pay-per-view, and they both walked out with some not bad injuries, but they're injuries still. I mean, Finn Balor, 2 broken bones in his jaw. Kyle O'Reilly, broken ribs. It was pretty. It was a pretty violent match. It was pretty hard hitting. Kind of very New Japan-esque.
Jeez.
I don't think they're gonna take the title off Balor right now, but because his jaw, they said, won't take that long to be ring ready.
No, and I know it was wired shut. I think it's not wired shut anymore. I think he's good, but I think he's just recouping. I don't know if you guys saw the selfie he took earlier this week, but his jaw is definitely huge.
That sucks. He's been
Yeah.
pretty healthy too. Well, I take that back. When he won the Universal, he got hurt by that buckle. What is that called from
Yep.
Seth?
Buckle bomb.
The
The
buckle
buckle
bomb.
bomb yeah, into the barricade.
Man, timing with him. And he's not young
Yeah, but I
anymore
don't think they're
either.
going to take the title from him. That would be kind of a shame that the only way he's really losing titles nowadays, well, the past 5 years,
Injury.
has been injuries and being vacated.
Yeah, he's
Plus
not
that,
young either.
The title vacated twice in a row.
Right, that
Yeah, with
sucks.
that would be terrible for NXT, having Karrion Kross have to vacate, and then Finn Balor's first defense, I believe, his first defense having to vacate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a shame.
Jeez. So obviously NXT opposed AEW that night. What happened during that show?
During AEW,
Yeah.
quite a few things. Most notably, I would say Jon Moxley versus Lance Archer for the AEW Championship. AEW Jon Moxley did retain in a pretty back and forth match. It does make Moxley look very strong going up against these big dudes and being able to fight through pretty much everything and ending up outsmarting pretty much everybody like he did with Brian Cage as well. After the match, Eddie Kingston came out to celebrate with Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley wasn't very pleased by it because he's kind of been in a rivalry with Eddie Kingston's whole faction. Eddie Kingston ended up hitting him with a spinning back fist, then choking him out with a rear naked choke, then cutting a pretty awesome promo on a passed out Jon Moxley.
Yeah, Kingston is really good on the mic.
Oh,
I
he's
had
amazing
seen him
on the
before.
mic. Yeah, that's what you get with some of those guys that just lived on the indies and never got that call. You get surprised by how good some of them are, like Eddie Kingston, who's up there in age. He's not a young guy by any means, but he's just so good on the mic. It's ridiculous. Every time he touches the mic, it's been pure gold.
So this be one to go back, a good episode to go back and watch.
I would say it was pretty good. That match was not the best match, but after the match, it was very good. And that's leading to Eddie Kingston versus Jon Moxley. It's going to be an I Quit match at Full Gear on November 7th.
Nice.
Cody versus Orange Cassidy was a really good match too.
Yeah, that ended in a time limit draw. That was a very, very good match, surprisingly. I'm not a huge fan of Cody Rhodes. I know that's shocking to hear from an AEW fan, but Cody Rhodes really doesn't. He's a very good storyteller in the ring. Just I'm not impressed with his promos or his in-ring work, other than his hyping up AEW and his very passionate promos about his dad and his brother and everything like that.
I was going to say, his genuine promos
Yeah, his
are
genuine
solid.
promos are very, very good. But when he's just cutting a promo, I don't know if it's the lisp that gets to me as well. But I just can't get completely invested in Cody Rhodes. But Orange Cassidy pretty much showed everybody what he's been showing everybody for the past 6 months, is how good of a wrestler he actually is. Once he takes off the comedy gimmick and actually gets serious,
He can wrestle.
He's absolutely breathtaking in the ring.
And also, during the match, they showed Darby Allin watching, and they announced that he's going to face Cody for the title at Full Gear, I think
At
it
Full
is.
Gear, yep.
Nice. Circle back to
So
Kingston
that
really
should be a
quick.
very good match.
DKA says, I don't think, this is DK in chat, I don't think Kingston is good on the mic. He just insults people, even his friends. A good promo puts over others, not buries them. Again, DK in chat. You can chat along with us, too, if you join us as we do this live on Twitch on Sunday nights. Thoughts, rebuttal to that, Cody?
I don't agree with that. I think Kingston has been very good on the mic, because he doesn't just insult people. The main point that he always puts up in almost all of his promos has been how overlooked he's been, and how, for example, the more recent ones has been Jon Moxley pretty much having the silver spoon, going up to WWE, making his millions of dollars, while the dogs are in the streets fighting for their life. I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, some people might view it as bad, and it's not really putting people over per se. I don't think it's burying them, though. I think he's just more elevating himself than anything else.
I mean, Moxley's a bad example for that because he grinded himself through the indies before he got to WWE and made a name for himself. Obviously, the name he carries now.
Yeah, I agree with that, but they kind of came up on the same circuit, that hardcore circuit, because Eddie Kingston's definitely more known on the hardcore scene.
Well, right, that's what he was. He was not a death match per se, but pretty much like,
exactly.
lighter version of. But that's what Moxley was known for, and it's always why I've been so critical of his actual in-ring work. I was never a fan of what he did in WWE, character and in-ring work, because he never got the freedom to do what he was doing that got him there, because you couldn't put that kind of content on their TV. So it just diminished the value of him, besides just being a third member of the Shield.
I agree with that.
And I mean, that's a compliment to the guy, and that's a rare compliment from me, because again, I never have been a huge fan of him. But it doesn't help that he was watered down.
Agreed.
They set up Kip Sabian and Miro versus the Best Friends, or as Miro called them, the Good Friends.
The Good Friends. They have one of the best
I
entrance themes in AEW, by the way. I have to acknowledge that.
I do like that storyline so far. I wouldn't call it comedy, but it is pretty funny that the reason they're kind of fighting is because Best Friends destroyed Miro's favorite video game.
What?
Kip was playing it at ringside, where the crowd would be. And
yeah, it's an arcade game. It's not like a video game.
They were fighting FTR, and one of them went through it. And then Kip was sitting there holding what was left of the controls and told I can't remember her name, Penelope Ford to go get. He just said, "Go get him," and obviously him was Miro, Rusev, whatever you want to call him.
DK says the cabinet was clearly empty.
Yes. Hikaru Shida and Big Swole actually had a good match, which is rare for AEW to have good women's matches.
They have some good women's match, not used always, but they just don't have the storylines for them.
I think that Shida has single-handedly elevated the women's division. And Thunder Rosa as well, even though she's not necessarily an AEW talent. But the fact that she was able to come over and have some great matches. And that story was pretty good as well. Pretty much Thunder Rosa trying to be a two-company champion. But those two absolutely are amazing wrestlers. So having some amazing wrestlers with some very meh wrestlers, kind of sucks for the division as a whole. But Big Swole, I think, is actually pretty good. That's the girlfriend of Cedric Alexander. But she's very good for her style of wrestling.
Yeah.
Now, I know in the beginning of AEW, they were actually pushing the women's division quite well. Like I said, I'm hit or miss with their program now, so I can't say how it's been going consistently. But from the sound of it, doesn't sound like it's been that good.
Yeah, so AEW has this group going on right now called Heels, and it's a fan base group. It's women fan group, and they're trying to point out that whenever the women's division comes on, they start losing views. To kind of counteract that, they're actually kind of saying, "Hey, stop turning the channel off." Britt Baker actually had a promo where she legitimately said, "Hey, when there's a women's segment or a women's wrestling match, don't change the channel. We're working just as hard as the guys. We're trying to be as good as the guys," and just kind of pointing the finger and saying, "Hey, we're here and we're not going anywhere. We're only going to get better."
Yeah, that's good. I mean, hopefully it's effective for them because they deserve it. So, and it's 100% fact. They work as hard, if not more harder, than the men do because they're not given as many opportunities. They have to work for everything. So that's another topical debate in itself too, but it's true.
And the only other thing I wanted to touch on with AEW this week was the number one contender tournament for the AEW World Championship was announced, and all of the participants in the bracket was announced.
You mean the tag champ?
No, the AEW World Championship.
Oh yeah, but they set up the thing for the number one tag titles, contenders also. That was why I was confused.
Yeah, so the bracket that they showed for the AEW World Championship, on one side of the bracket it's Phoenix versus Pentagon, which they're a tag team, so that's going to be a very good match. Both of them are very good.
High flyers.
But the fact that they have kind of been going at each other's throats as of recently, and Eddie Kingston's been the one making them get along, I think this could be the end of that tag team.
Gotcha.
Then you got Kenny Omega versus Joey Janela, which we've seen them go at it before. They've actually had one of the greatest dark matches I've ever seen. If you go back, it's the AEW Dark episode 2. They had a hardcore match that went for quite a while, and it was pretty gruesome and pretty awesome to watch. So if you haven't seen it, I'd say go check that out. And then on the other side of the bracket, you have Colt Cabana versus Hangman Page, which is pretty clear to me that Hangman Page is going to go ahead and take that. And then Wardlow versus Jungle Boy, which Wardlow's kind of the obvious answer, but they do like Jungle Boy, so I can kind of see them pushing that. But ultimately, having Kenny Omega and Hangman Page on opposite sides,
it's coming down to those two.
It's pretty obvious that it's going to come down to those two for number one contendership.
That should be a great match.
Which they'll do that match itself at a pay-per-view. They'd be silly not to.
Yeah, but they could always now they're getting called out right. They're getting called out right now because people are saying it's too obvious that that's going to be the finals. Which I agree. I think it will be the finals, but AEW is also the type of company that kind of throws a lot of swerves in the mix. Like nobody really expected Hangman Page to
hold the Young Bucks' legs and cost them a tag title opportunity against FTR. And then, so I mean, I could see possibly Kenny Omega going full heel, turning into the cleaner, and costing Hangman Page a match. But then again, that could also bite them in the ass. I think that they need to have that match.
I mean, the good thing here is they have options. So you don't want to book yourself into a corner.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing I was talking about was the number one contender match they set up for next week is 4 teams for the tag title. It's Private Party, Silver,
Reynolds and Silver.
Red Silver from Dark Order, Butcher and Blade, and then the Young Bucks. And I gotta say, the Young Bucks got to be the number one call there. They haven't really had they haven't had the titles, and everybody wants that match: FTR versus the Young Bucks.
Yeah, and I
set it up.
don't see them winning the titles off of FTR. I think they put FTR over.
The only way I
don't see the Young Bucks winning is if FTR comes out and costs them,
which is also a possibility. But we've also seen FTR go against. We've seen them go against Private Party. We've seen them go against
Butcher and the Blade.
Yeah, they've gone against Butcher and the Blade. I don't think they've gone against Reynolds and Silver as a tag team, but they have gone against Dark Order.
Which can I say? I don't like Butcher and the Blade.
I like one of them. I don't like both of them.
It's just
I don't really care about them either way.
It's a weird gimmick.
It is a very weird
They
gimmick.
had them as like mercenaries, and they lost like everything. They never won, so they weren't very good mercenaries. And then they just basically got rid of that.
Well, they look like they're from a Poppy music video.
And the one that's married to Allie, I think, or they're together?
Yeah. They're married.
They never really explained why they weren't together. All of a sudden, she was the bunny, and then she was with
Colt Cabana, or not Colt Cabana. Dustin Rhodes' teammate. I'm blanking on his name.
Yeah, the QT Marshall.
Yeah, that's it.
DK and Chad says I like them, just not with Eddie Kingston and Lucha Bros.
Yeah, that's a weird combination. I do think Eddie Kingston complements the Lucha Bros, but not Butcher and Blade.
Yeah, having 2 tag teams in that group doesn't make a lot of sense, because they're gonna have to go against each other if they want
a conflict
to
of
get
interest.
To the number one.
Yeah.
It's weird stuff.
And then Sammy Guevara was revealed to be Matt Hardy's mystery attacker.
Well, surprise.
Yeah.
Which is kind of obvious.
Yeah.
And also, it's mixed feelings because they've hurt each other's, and Matt got hurt
because of him.
And
the rumors I hear is that they're going to have a Hardy compound match, which is safer.
Yeah.
Because it will be taped before, so they can edit and everything.
Can I just say I'm sick of those? I've seen it in Impact, I've seen it in WWE, and it's just lost its value to me.
Yeah. I mean, some of them are very good, and then others are very bad, like Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. I thought that was it wasn't bad I don't think it should have invented the pay-per-view. It was very good storytelling.
Especially next to the Boneyard match.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very good storytelling, but I think it was terrible to main event a pay-per-view.
Yeah, the placement of it's odd. The biggest fear too, I said at the beginning of this, new world of wrestling, if you will, that I wanted them to not do as many gimmick matches like this, the pre-tape stuff. And they haven't shoved it down our throats like I thought they would. For a while there, it seemed like every pay-per-view, for a great example, Money in the Bank this year. What the hell?
Yep.
Wow. Wow.
That was a big cluster.
So
I completely agree.
I'm glad they kind of stepped back into just actual wrestling matches. But like you said, it's safer with Matt Hardy getting back to the point. But I've seen it, and I don't
The part
know.
with Vince, though, was pretty hilarious when they broke into his office and he was like, "Get the hell out of here."
Sure, it had Money in the Bank had its moments, but man, you had like 2 minutes. We're not reviewing that, by the way. I just want to really emphasize my dislike for it. You had 2 minutes on the ladder, and that's it.
They wanted to do more in there, but Vince wouldn't let him because of his T-Rex skull. That's a real T-Rex skull that was on his wall, not some plaster thing.
Yeah.
And he was afraid it would get broke.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it had its moments, but
More comedic than it was actually.
right. And that's where it left me
wrestling
kind of
match.
disappointed because it had such potential. The way they described it.
Can
Like,
we just say that Baron Corbin threw Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black off a building and they were back in 2 days?
They were too. He murdered someone live on TV, and they were back fine, and we didn't even discuss him being dumped off a
Yeah,
building.
we didn't even talk about them being thrown off a building.
I think they did mention it when they were like, "Oh, they just landed like one level down. There was another level, you couldn't see it."
The match reminded me of the Hardcore Championship back in the days, like around WrestleMania 2000, where they're at the ball pit and like the play place, like the play world. Do you guys
I know
remember that at all?
exactly what you're talking about.
That it made me think of that as just a very comical and light version of what could have been or what should have been.
They
Yeah,
did both lose an eye. DKA just said both of them lost an eye.
they did.
They did.
What the hell?
Rey Mysterio's legitimately out of his face. Well,
Yeah, that was cheesy too.
quotes on legitimately.
Yeah, what a wild year. Let's
just holding
finish
the
up this
golf ball.
week though, because we have to talk about another retro review, which we're actually going to give our review on. Any closing thoughts for the week of wrestling that was? I mean, we touched on a lot. Obviously, there's more stuff that happened, but we'd
Yeah,
be here all night.
the only thing I want to touch on a little bit before we close this part out is this morning, very early this morning, I might add, at 2 a.m. Eastern Time, was the G1 Climax Finals. I'm not really going to talk about any of the tag team matches that happened because that's ultimately all the show was besides the main event, which was Kota Ibushi facing Sonata. Very good match. I honestly thought Sonata should have won this because it was his first time making it to the finals. This is Ibushi's third consecutive year making it to the finals for the G1 Climax. But Sonata ended up failing in a 35-minute match. Kota Ibushi, who won the Climax last year, is now a 2-time G1 Climax winner, which is what it is. Hopefully Kota Ibushi gets his heavyweight push. He's definitely deserving of it.
Where do you watch that at? Just out of curiosity.
I use watchwrestling.in.
Okay, so there you guys, listeners who want to catch that kind of content as well. We can put that in the description.
That has any wrestling that you could ever want, including pay-per-views.
Nice.
So do with that info as you want.
We didn't mention SmackDown at all. Daniel Bryan returned.
He did. I read that. Again, I missed SmackDown. So
Goldberg was apparently on one of the Thunderdome things, and they called it out in there, and I didn't go back and look because I had it on, but I wasn't paying attention to that much.
Well, for those that don't know about Goldberg's contract, he's under contract until, I believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, until 2022 with at least 2 matches per year. I believe that's what his Legends contract has him. So through 2022.
Street Profits beat Rude Ziggler, of course.
Stupid of WWE to bring those two back together, but I digress.
Reigns completely destroyed Strowman. Like, it was a squash match, and
he is using a submission finisher now, which he introduced, and I really enjoy that he's developing.
Interesting. Yeah, I saw this send off for Braun was not well done.
I like the way they're going with Roman. I know, Travis, you said you don't, or it's too late, but I
It's too
do.
late.
But I just think, what the hell did you do that to Strowman for? You could have had him jumping before the match and made it more believable that way, hitting with a chair and just take him out.
You could
Just debating
say,
like that
dude, you could say
in the
that
match.
about everything the last 2 years. What the hell did you do that to Strowman for? That's been the
And
story of his
and
main
the
event
Fiend.
push.
Strowman and the Fiend have
Yeah.
both just been like, "What the hell are you doing? You have like the Fiend, especially. It's like you have the hottest thing going right now, and you've just flushed it every time he gets a little momentum."
And the fact that Jey Uso put up more of a fight against Roman than Braun did.
The peak of Braun's career, minus his lackluster title run, was winning a tag team championship with the Kid,
With the 10-year-old.
which was a child of a producer, like one of the crew members of WWE. Just heads up on that, it wasn't actually a random kid. But yeah, that was like the peak of his interest for whatever they were trying to do with him, and then it's just they've dropped the ball on him big time.
I was really hoping they were going to bring that kid back during the summer, because after they vacated the titles, Braun said as soon as he's on summer vacation, they're coming back for the tag team titles. And I was really hoping that they were going to do it. But they never brought the kid back, unfortunately.
Well, thankfully, I don't want to see that again.
No, and that who'd they beat? Sheamus and Cesaro?
Yeah, the
Two
Bar.
Great wrestlers. Yeah, that's it was upsetting.
Way to destroy a really good tag team
Yeah.
with a child.
I hate the fact that they're still continuing the Mysterio Rollins feud. It's like, why? You've said everything. You could have left Mysterios on Raw and Murphy, and let them continue the story like a little bit with the daughter, but you didn't need Rollins there.
I disagree. I think because Murphy attacked Rollins. Murphy turned on Rollins.
Yeah.
And I think he needed that. I don't think they could have just ignored Murphy leaving Seth. I think they needed Seth to get attacked by Murphy.
I just never been a Mysterio fan. I mean, I don't hate the guy. He's obviously good. It's just I never was like, yeah, Rey Mysterio's in this show.
I agree with you.
I've been an on and off fan of his throughout his career, so I'll leave it at that. Any other closing thoughts on the state of wrestling for this week?
No, but I do have a segue.
Let's do it.
Because going into SummerSlam 2002, the opening match was actually, I think, Rey Mysterio's one of his best matches against Kurt Angle.
That was his first pay-per-view in WWE, wasn't it?
I believe you are correct with that, because he had just signed that June to a contract.
Yep.
It was a good match. It did what it needed to get the show open and the crowd hype.
That was arguably the best 10-minute match I think I've seen in a long, long time.
So to give you some history on this, we're speaking of SummerSlam 2002, the 15th annual SummerSlam event brought to you by WWE, and it was hosted in East Rutherford, New Jersey. So the Izard Center, which is then known as the Nassau Coliseum. So the opening contest, as you had spoken on, the great segue was Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio. So let's continue with our thoughts on that. You said it was one of the best 10-minute matches.
Yeah, I think it was very fast paced. They did. I think Kurt Angle is arguably one of the best wrestlers of the 90s and 2000s. He transitioned so well from collegiate wrestling and the Olympics to being an in-ring performer. And this was fairly early in his career. I don't want to say it was late into his career with WWE, the first run at least. But you can just tell how good Kurt Angle actually is in this match.
This is into the prime of Kurt Angle, I'd have to say. He joined the company in late 1999, so we're in the midst of summer of 2002. So he's got a few years under his belt at this point.
Yeah.
I always liked
he was
how
bald by this point.
He was
could be
bald by this point,
serious.
thanks to Edge.
serious and sometimes, and comedic wrestling and others, and just he had a bunch of great range.
I agree. There are people out there that dislike Kurt Angle. I can honestly say I was a fan of his work.
Yeah, it's true. It's damn true.
It's damn true. It's real. It's damn real. A little bit of insight, too, about this event. They kicked things off, and this is a place that I always wanted to go to that I never got to go to. You guys, well, Cody specifically, maybe you've been because you're closer, but maybe not. The World. Do you remember The World? The restaurant?
I do remember The World. I never went, but
You never went?
that's always something I wish I went to.
Same.
It always looked like such a great time.
Yeah. Is like everyone there loved wrestling and food and just drinking and partying and wrestling. Like what other cool place would you want to go to? Especially downtown.
Exactly.
You know, right in Times Square there. Like that's, if you've never been to Times Square, that's such a cool place. I definitely recommend. So at this time, the brand split was happening. It was about the end, the last year or so, about the Attitude Era. Anyone ever heard about that era?
Nope.
Nope. We had split rosters. Obviously, it was the brand split, so it opened up with Cole and Taz, Michael Cole and Taz, on commentary for SmackDown. Like you had mentioned, a hot start. The crowd was feeling it, very loud. New York crowds generally are. There are select crowds across the nation that are louder than others and more into it than others. Chicago, a notorious crowd. New York, a notorious crowd. LA, I believe, is another. I'm sure you can name so many more. So we see Kurt Angle come out, kicks off the show to a surprise attack from Ray. So we have a heated rivalry for this match.
I was surprised Ray lost his first ever debut pay-per-view match. I mean, it was a good match, but
but I don't think at that point in time Ray didn't have as much hype, I guess. WCW, he was good, but he was never really the top guy. Even in the cruiserweight division, he was never really the top guy.
They used their cruiserweights very badly.
Oh, there's so many of them, though.
That's why Jericho left.
Yeah, so I mean, Rey Mysterio, yes, people that watched WCW knew him, and they knew that he's had some very good matches, like with Eddie Guerrero at Halloween Havoc. But I don't think he was a big enough name to go over a guy as hot as Kurt Angle was in that time.
No, Kurt Angle had so much momentum, and it was right booking for Kurt Angle to get the victory at this time. With the timing, too, of Ray signing, you speaking on his momentum or hot streak, WCW ended in March of 2001. Rey Mysterio signed in June of 2002. So you're talking about a year off TV. It's hard to kind of get that momentum in 2 months for this particular first pay-per-view match for him and get the crowd interested enough to put him over that quickly. I don't know if the reason he didn't sign right away, if he was one of the Time Warner contracts, he was just sitting at home, or if he went to Mexico or went somewhere else. I don't know about that period of time for Rey Mysterio. Listeners, please let me know or let us know in comments, unless you guys know.
I don't know.
Nope.
Because I know a lot of people were starting to sign in the year 2002, 2003 because they were sitting at home getting paid by Time Warner, the deal. Goldberg was another one. Flair didn't sign right away. A lot of the bigger names.
Most of the big names. That's why they should have delayed the invasion angle.
Yeah, most of them really didn't. They didn't go over right away. The main people that did go over was before WCW ended. The guys that left. So you got
the New
Eddie
Radicals,
Guerrero, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, those guys.
Dean Malenko.
And Dean Malenko as well, the guys that left WCW and went over to WWE before it all ended.
Moppy.
Quite the motley crew.
You don't remember Moppy?
Yeah, with Saturn.
Yeah, Perry Saturn. That was a punishment angle, by the way. Anyone knowing the history of that. Funny stuff there. Look that up. That's another topical thing. DK said the big ones like Hogan and Goldberg signed with Time Warner and not with WCW, right? Which is why, as mentioned, like NWO and other things, they delayed their joining.
Yep.
Which sucks, but at the same time, if you're getting paid millions to not wrestle, do you blame them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just
No,
sit
you
at
don't-
home
you don't
and
blame
do
any of
whatever you
them.
want.
No. I would sit on my ass too for $1 million or more. Hell, I'd sit on my ass for $500,000. I'm sitting on my ass right now for free. So let's just say I'd sit on my ass. I'm lazy. Hogan was getting paid to stay at home, says DK. Booker T was night. I don't know what that means. What do you mean, DK? Was not, I'm assuming? Because Booker T was one of the early. DDP, another one signed right away. That could be another show in itself, the invasion storyline, because all of us, I bet, have a lot to say on that.
Yeah, which I'm sure we'll hit that one day.
We will. We will, because I want to talk about that. That's for me. I was 16 years old, so like prime wrestling fan. I did scores on these matches. I don't know if you guys did. It wasn't like a requirement or something we talked about, but I did a 5-star rating for each of the matches. You can come up with one now if you want, or just you don't have to. I gave it a 4 out of 5, that opening match. It concluded with Angle tapping out Ray, and again, I highlighted it as a very fast-paced opener. Great match, not a perfect 5-star, but it was a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I would
agree with
also. Yeah, I'd give it a 4 as well. I think it was one of the best matches on the card. It was a very good opener, and I did like how strong Angle looked at the end, catching Mysterio with the ankle lock. And then how forcefully he was dragging him away from the ropes because of how little Rey Mysterio weighs.
Right, selling it so well. Like it was a good opener. The energy was there. People were ready to watch wrestling.
Absolutely.
We then transition, unless you guys have more to say.
Nope.
No.
We then transitioned to backstage. There was a Stephanie promo, the brand wars against Eric Bischoff, so opposing general managers. Obviously, Eric Bischoff on Raw, Stephanie McMahon on SmackDown. And then we transitioned to Lawler and JR on commentary for Raw. The next match is Jericho, and Ric Flair. For me, I dubbed this as the showcase of the showboats, both charismatic heels, and both of them battled previously in WCW. Thoughts?
Flair really showed his age in this one with his offense. He sold the hell out of his when he took a move, but his offense was mainly chops. He didn't get a lot. I know he never was the biggest offense guy, but all night chops.
No, it's very old school wrestling.
I'm not saying it was a bad match though, because it was still a good match, but I would put more of that on Jericho at this time.
Yeah, I agree. My notes that I took, too many chops was a highlighted note. So we agree on that. Too many damn chops. I felt it was an average match that slowed towards the end. Again, too many chops. And it's coming out of a storyline where Flair was somewhat new to the company and Jericho coming out of being the undisputed champion angle. Earlier that year, he had lost to Triple H at Mania. So for him getting to face off against Flair, which he had done in WCW, maybe he hadn't. I'm fairly certain they've battled. Now I'm drawing a blank. But regardless, it's just, I don't know. Go ahead, Cody. Before I give my score, go ahead and give your thoughts.
On my notes I have here just how good this showcased how good prime Jericho was, and not necessarily completely prime, but even that younger, even just before his prime, how good he actually was. That was probably Jericho's hottest time. Do I think he should have lost the match to Flair? Probably not. But then again, Flair is a legend. He definitely was showing his age in that match. I agree with Trevor on that. Definitely a lot of chops. But also you saw some vintage Ric Flair with the low blow. and the transitioning into the figure four from there. I did like the finish of that match. Honestly, I would probably give that match a 2.5, maybe 3.
A little bit of backstory on. Go ahead.
I was thinking 3 because they're still 2 of the best ever, and even if Flair isn't in shape, Jericho was carrying the shit out of that match because Jericho is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I agree with that. Jericho carried that match. I give it a 3 out of 5 as well. And one of the things to note here is that Ric Flair didn't feel he was worthy of winning with the figure four. Ric Flair at this period of time, and this is like right before Evolution, Ric Flair, with the help of people like Jericho, Triple H, and a few other veterans, got him out of a funk. If you watch any documentaries, he'll speak on this funk he had. And I'm not talking about stink. I'm talking about he just didn't feel confident in his abilities. He was showing his age, like you had said, and he just didn't feel he was worthy to be there anymore. And people like Jericho and others pulled him out of that. And ultimately, that's why they went with that finish, to try to showcase, hey, this guy still got it. He can still hang it in his young 50s at the time. Which he could.
What is the documentary that WWE Network has? Is it Untold Stories?
I believe so, yeah.
Evolution?
Yeah.
He goes deep into that story. So if you're ever thinking about looking into what we're talking about, watch the Untold Stories on WWE Network. He goes very deep into what his funk actually was and how Triple H pulled him out of that.
Definitely, yes. That's where I got some of that information from myself, so I highly recommend it, watching that if you haven't. If you have the network, watch the documentaries. It's really cool stuff on there. Any other thoughts on Jericho Flair?
Nope.
Transitioned to Brock backstage with Paul Heyman. I was watching with Andrea Lana, and she's like, wait, what year is this? How long have they been doing the Paul Heyman Brock thing? Which at the time, this was right
long enough for Paul Heyman to have a ponytail.
Right, he still had the ponytail. This was the first run for Brock. This was his first year on the main roster. He had just debuted back in like April, so I mean we're talking like 4 months on the main roster. He was in Ohio Valley previously, but so I mean Paul Heyman just had acquired him. Brock really didn't have much going for him, and then about a month or two maybe before SummerSlam, they brought in Heyman and they started developing what became the build to this particular match. There were more things to it, like him beating Hogan and other things too. So we showed them backstage kind of getting ready, hyping up the main event for later. We then transitioned to a SmackDown match, Eddie Guerrero versus Edge. Somebody kick me off.
I'm gonna kick you off with making you angry.
Oh.
I do not think this was a good match in my opinion. I think it was okay. It was decent, but I feel like I just don't like Edge as a wrestler. And I know he's your favorite, but as a wrestler, I just don't like his style. Eddie Guerrero was very good in this match. But something about Edge, he's very good at selling, but he's just not for me. His in-ring style, I thought, dragged Eddie Guerrero down a little bit, and didn't make this match as good as it should have been.
Quick note from chat, DK, speaking on the Brock build-up, he said that was crazy. He was a huge Rock fan, hated that Brock came in and squashed the Hardys, and then DK is going to kick me off the show. DK says, Cody, you're also right. Watch Edge's movements. They're awkward and weird, and his moves are weird.
Yeah, and you can tell in that match specifically. I don't know if it was because... And it's not even like he was really green in that time.
No, he'd been around for a few years.
He's just very awkward, and his moveset's just kind of blah. And Eddie Guerrero being such a legend that he is, and how good of a wrestling style he had, I think it clashed a little bit. So I really don't think this was that great of a match. If I give the last match 3 stars, this would definitely be 2.
Trevor, what do you got before I give my rebuttal here?
I would go with 2.5. Eddie was working the hell out of it, like the shoulder making it seem like making him be in pain, and he was selling the hell out of it too. It's just, yeah, not the best match on the card by a lot.
DK says regarding Edge and Christian, he was better as a tag team. In contrast, he thinks Christian is severely underrated with how good he is in singles. DK says Eddie was good. I don't think Eddie can get less than 2.5 stars. Laugh out loud. I gave this match a 4 out of 5.
I agree with DK saying Christian is severely underrated with how good he is in singles. I think Christian is... I don't want to say he's a lot better, but he is better than Edge, in my opinion.
DK says biased. I am slightly biased. I want to bring something up, too, about this particular pay-per-view. Look at all the participants. Well, a vast majority. All of them, or all of them will be, for the most part, Hall of Famers on this particular 100%. Show. Like, this was a stacked card. Like, I didn't realize that until rewatching. I'm like, almost all these people are top of the wrestling world, and how they just spread them all out throughout the card was incredible. Speaking of Edge and Eddie, the thing that I think bothered me the most on this one is the contrast of styles. Edge, I think, was out of his comfort zone as far as like Eddie's pacing and style. DK quickly says Christian, Mark Henry. Mark Henry had his best matches against Christian. Andrew Alana says you're going to make me cry. No, I'm fine. I can defend.
I agree with DK on that, though.
So I think for Edge here, he was pushed out of his comfort zone, and it showed a little in this match. But I think the ability that they both had their offense and defense throughout the in-ring and outer ring and all around it, they utilized the space very well. I think it's one of their first exchanges, and I think that might have been why it was awkward. If this was like a program, and I'd have to go back and watch the concurrent weeks and stuff. In a vacuum, it could have been better. And I think it's something that Edge could have been pushed a little bit more. And I could see what you said, awkward, but again, I think it's contrast of style here. Eddie is very different than Edge. Edge is a more stiff worker. Eddie is adaptable as a cruiserweight and a heavyweight. And you got to consider that too. You mentioned tag teams, right? This is one of the first runs for Edge as a single star. He had spent his entire career in the Brood or Edge and Christian up to this point, this year. He was still figuring things out, whereas Eddie had worked with everyone internationally. Edge did not. So,
yeah, I mean, Edge is still fairly young in this match. He's still in his 20s, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're right. Yeah, he was again, singles competition was new for him. He had just gotten out of a program with Kurt Angle not too long before this, which is why you acknowledge Kurt being bald, because they did the hair versus hair. This was right before his first injury too, or was it after his first injury? I can't recall. DK says until Edge went heel, he didn't really have a style. He just did moves like a bad creator wrestler. Jeez. Was this hate on Edge night? God damn. Again, he was
every night on Edge night.
Every night. This podcast can be canceled.
Jim is involved.
I don't hate Edge. I like Edge.
I think it's a very popular opinion, honestly, through wrestling fans. That
I don't think he's the best, but
either people loved Edge and Edge is their favorite wrestler ever,
yeah,
or the other big grouping of people thinks that Christian was the better wrestler out of the two.
I don't discount anything of Christian's bit. I loved him, almost as much as Edge. That was, again, one of my favorite tag teams. Loved the stuff they did. I loved just everything about them, the pose, the comic stuff, and like they did it all. That's what they were so good at. They could do it all. They were great charismatic faces, but they were fantastic heels too. DK says Edge does have good mic skills. He had a good look, good character, and we face coming out to Rob Zombie. Yeah. This is not the Edge show or praise Edge night or diss on him. I just wanted to highlight why I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think it was a solid match. There were minimal mistakes. And with some fine tuning, I think they had potential to give it a 5 out of 5 at some point.
So you think that match was as good as Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio to open?
Yes, just different styles, but yes.
I cringed a little bit there. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I mean, that's fine.
I
I'm also
respect
not
it.
doing half points. I'm just doing whole numbers. So
I got you.
Trap, you said that they were all Hall of Famers or would be, and Benoit will never be a Hall of Famer.
I mean,
And
unfortunately, but that's
I
another
don't think
topic.
Test will be either.
What's wrong with Test?
Yeah.
He'll never be
I mean,
a
he's
Hall
not-
of Famer. He never really got the. He never got that full.
You guys
I'm not
don't
trying
you
to
don't like
disrespect the
TNA?
dead,
What's going on with
But he
TNA?
was never He's never was top tier, I would say.
Test and Albert?
He's good.
You don't like the
but not-
testicles?
Didn't like what? Sorry, you cut out.
The testicles. You don't like the testicles?
Oh God, here we go.
Whatever. TNA was good, liked him with see? Okay, see. So yeah, speaking of, let's transition now out of the SmackDown match. Un-Americans promo, Lance Storm, Test, and Christian. Easy heel right here. You get a bunch of people who aren't American to be un-American. You're going to get booed.
Just disrespecting the flag.
Yeah, you're going to get booed, disrespect the flag, piss on America. It's an easy go-to to try to get everyone against you.
Especially
They might get shot now.
a year, less than a year after 9/11 is when this group came together.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally weeks away from the 1 year of that event. So, yeah, talk about timely nature of this faction. And, I mean, maybe it was very much intentional. How do you get heel
absolutely,
heat?
it was.
You do that. And it worked. It worked incredibly. So we got the Raw Tag Team Championship match. The Un-Americans are the champions. Christian and Lance Storm against Booker and Goldust. It starts off with, of course, the USA chants. I said it was kind of like just weird tag teams. Like Booker and Goldust, I know it's kind of like we look back now and it makes sense, but it's a weird tag team, in all honesty.
It is,
For
but
sure.
they worked really well off each other. I know Goldust doing the stupid shit and then Booker just reacting to it was always funny to me.
And that's the thing, they were comedic value when they both were actually tenured and talented wrestlers. So it was weird chemistry, weird booking. A lot of the notes I have for this, I said the pacing stayed kind of consistent throughout. It featured a generic hit from the refs, from the heels. Test running in to help his faction out when the ref was down. Ultimately, I gave this one a 3 out of 5. It was average.
Yeah,
I would have went 2.5. It was good, but nothing innovating.
Yeah, I'd give it a 3. It was a good tag match. It wasn't amazing by any means, but it wasn't bad. It was kind of average. But I would only jump it up a little bit because of the ending. I did like the heel tactic ending.
Yeah, it worked,
So
but it
that-
was generic.
That does push it up a little bit for me. And how angry the crowd was
Yeah.
definitely shows that it was.
It worked.
Yeah, it worked. In Vince's eyes, it worked. They got the crowd reaction that they were looking for.
Yep, and like I said, that's why I said it was fine. 3. It worked. It did what it needed to do, but it was forgettable at the end of the day.
Yep.
So we go then to, unless anybody wants to add any more, there's really not a lot to talk about.
No,
right now.
this
No.
segue that you're about to pull.
Yeah. What the hell? We're going to the world. Nydia and Noble having a makeout contest. Rosa, Eden, thanks for the follow. Nydia doing a makeout contest at the World in Times Square. What the hell?
this segment would not fly today. Jamie Noble telling her pretty much to jump on him and make out with him, and Jamie Noble talking to the guy saying, "You like that? Give that tongue to him." That would not fly today by any means.
I had forgotten about that, like this happening, and then there was another thing that we'll get to later on in the show, which at this point I'm like, what the hell was this? But there was something else that made it even worse. I'm like, what the hell?
This was that era.
Yeah, it really was that era. It was the shock value TV. It was the ending of the Attitude Era. They had done everything, and they were still trying to figure out things to get ratings, and desperate. Because you don't even have competition at this point. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, that was
just bad.
That was weird. And then we go to Steph and Bischoff backstage discussing the show, and then they have sexual tension. Like, what was that about? Did anyone pick up on that, or is that just me?
Vince has loved pretty much since Stephanie got on TV. Vince has loved sexing up Stephanie, and I put quotes on that. But he has loved making his daughter do some of the most questionable things
and she
that
has.
A father should not do.
No.
I mean, he wanted to do an incest angle with her.
So weird.
Yeah,
and she was like, no, hell no, never happening.
Do you guys listen to the Stone Cold podcast?
Yes.
So he had Kurt Angle on recently. Did you guys listen to that one?
Which one? Kurt
Angle was on recently.
Yeah, I did. I watched that one on WWE Network.
Okay, so if you guys watch that, you'll know what I'm talking about here. Kurt Angle mentioned it was around this time period, the angle where he ran backstage when he was feuding with Triple H, when he ran backstage to basically take care of Stephanie, and he had to kiss her. You guys remember what I'm talking about here?
Yes.
So while they were filming that and doing that sequence off camera, the director of that scene is Vince. And Kurt Angle said he was never more bothered or felt awkward than having to do stuff like that. And Vince coaching him during this scene.
Yeah, Vince, that made him the most uncomfortable, is Vince coaching him to get in there with his daughter.
So weird. So weird. God, I'm glad they're making the money they make, but damn, at what point?
There was no point.
No.
In 2002, there was no point.
And I mean, here we are 18 years later, we're talking about it, so it did what it needed to do.
We couldn't ignore the segments.
Let's transition back to wrestling, though, shall we?
Yes, please.
A Raw and SmackDown match, basically moving a belt around. The spoiler alert for the point of this one. So it featured Intercontinental Champion Chris Benoit, who we spoke on a moment ago, against RVD. One of the things, I don't know if you guys caught this, the WWF logo was on the belt still, and it was blurred. Did you guys notice that?
They blurred it on all the old tapes and stuff.
But it was not WWF at this time. I believe they were acknowledged as WWE. Were they not at this point?
So I think around this time is when it transitioned.
I want to say it was April or May of 2002.
Yeah, when the Panda Foundation took it.
Right. So DK says they were, but they didn't redo the belts yet. That makes sense. Lana says Trump wants to F his daughter, so does Vince. Seems to be a trend.
No politics.
Oh, okay. I was just reading chat. So, I mean, that makes sense. I questioned that, too. So I was like, did they not just redo the belts yet? Which, timing of that. But I was like, that's weird. You're walking around with the old logo. I mean, not that it changed much, but still. The company name changed.
It was strange to see, but I mean, in that time frame, if you go in the archive, you see that quite a bit.
Oh, I know, prior to that, this stuff was blurred. There was something recently, they don't have to blur certain specific logos now. DK says they weren't forced to cover it. Okay, so I mean, that makes sense. But it was weird. Anyway, so the match itself, I said good pacing to start, and then it turned into weird exchanges in a slower second half. So many rest holds and tests of strength. That was so awkward. Like, the second half of the match was just so deflating. Was it just me?
Yeah, so I mean, if you really dig deep into Benoit's wrestling style, he's very technical, and his technicality turns into a lot of rest holds and, like you said, a lot of tested strengths. It was kind of just Benoit's style. RVD not necessarily having a style like that. He had more of a, I think of it like a martial arts style, so it was a lot of strikes. You would think of it like strong style nowadays.
Right, and he showcased that in the first half of the match. I thought it started out great.
Yeah, I'm gonna give my star number here. I do think this was one of the better matches on the card. Not up to this point, because I do think the last two matches were arguably the best on the card. I would give this a 3.5. I do think it was a good match in general. Like you said, it did start out very well and very fast paced, and then it kind of died down. But it also was
close to a 17-minute match. So you kind of can't go pedal to the metal for 17 minutes and expect everybody to be.
But you can with these two guys. We're talking about the previous holder of the longest run in the Royal Rumble that they don't acknowledge anymore, being Chris Benoit. And you're talking about a guy that, I mean, has wrestled so many places and put on long matches himself in RVD. Who can go? He's got the tank. So
yeah, but I don't think you want that style with, like, you don't want RVD being completely winded going into springboards.
No, that's not safe, for one.
Yeah, that's just asking for a botch.
The thing is, like, I would have appreciated, I think, a little bit more back and forth than the first half of the match. Let's do RVD style. Then the second half of the match, let's do Chris Benoit style. I wish it was just kind of shuffled a little bit more, and I think ultimately it would have turned into a better match altogether. It just, even the crowd, I mean, they were sitting on their hands towards the end of the match.
Yeah, but I do think it ended very strong. It did get slow, but it picked back up at the very end. And I do think that RVD hit a pretty beautiful 5-star frog splash to end it.
He did. That came out of nowhere after the back and forth submission holds at the end. That got the crowd captured into the, because they knew the end was coming. I think they're excited for that too. And then the potential title change.
Finally.
Right. Both, like we already said, Benoit will never get acknowledged for his career because of obvious reasons. And RVD, I think, is a fantastic worker. So I give it a 3 out of 5. Any other thoughts?
Probably give it like a 3.5.
Did you want to dive more into it? I feel like I didn't get much from you on that one, Trevor.
I like RVD, but he's not like top of my list. And Benoit is a great worker, I think, and they just have clashing styles. I think that's probably why it slowed down there. That's all I would think. I mean, you guys covered it pretty well.
RVD's great. His highlighted moments are obviously ECW One Night Stand with Cena, and then a 5-star off the Elimination Chamber.
Yep.
Those are a few to highlight moments of his career. He's just a good worker in general, but
and then
like the weed a little too much.
And then getting Impact kicked off of Twitch.
Yeah, they're back on there, but
they are back on there, but they got banned for.
They were banned for a moment. Which you can check. They're streaming like 24 hours a day if you want to check out some really cool archive content. You can't pick and choose. They just, whatever's airing, it's like that section of WWE Network. TNA does have like something you can subscribe to watch archive content. But if you just want to like see what they're doing, they're on Twitch too. DK loves the 5-star frog splash. He gave that match 3 out of 5, or 3.5. Excuse me. I'm assuming that's 3.5. Other than that, RVD wasn't that exciting to DKA. Transitioning go ahead.
Notice how me and DKA have pretty much been agreeing on our star ratings.
You know, I'm surprised by that too, because I felt like you two would not agree on things, which is why I wanted to have you two
on
on the show
Edge.
once.
We agreed on that too.
Yeah.
I never really watched ECW, so
I did. I was a fan.
His work in WWE was good, just not like great.
I liked ECW
most
because
of the time.
I was doing the backyard wrestling at that time in my life, and I like, this is cool. This appeals to me. I wanted to be, I was like, this is my gateway in. I'm not a big guy, but I'll do some stupid things for money. So
You're like, I could take a chair to the head.
And I have. Ask iRob. He took a mirror to the face from me. Like, we were doing some stupid stuff. If we agree too much, then there's no point to bring you on, says DKA.
No, we disagree with a lot of things. We just haven't hit them tonight.
I was going to say, yeah, we'll find a show or a topic that there's going to be some back and forth. I guarantee it. I'm curious to see what Trevor ultimately picks for the next pay-per-view we're going to recap, because you're next, unless you want to skip your turn. But I'm looking at you. Next thing we're looking at here is Bischoff gloating that the belt is back on Raw, and then again the continued weird forced sexual tension. So I don't know if these things are like shot live or shot in one take, but it's just awkward.
Yeah, and you tend to see that a lot in that era. Is some pretty awkward segments.
It's like they don't have time.
SmackDown getting the U.S. title belt eventually. Right.
Right. The things were settling into place as far as the championships and with the brand split, things like that. We go then to a Raw match, Taker versus Test. So to continue on the storyline that was going on, Un-Americans against the American Badass here. I mean, whose side are you going to be at?
Least favorite Taker.
Yeah.
I don't hate it, but I like the Dead Man was so much better, than the Biker Taker.
I think the Phantom of the Opera Taker is my least favorite Taker, personally. That was short-lived, though. If you guys, that's probably
where he had the mask on. You mean?
Yeah.
Because his face got shattered.
Yeah. DK loves Phantom Taker. Yeah, it wasn't for me.
Wasn't that Taker versus Taker?
It was around that time.
At SummerSlam?
Yeah. It's like 95 or 94 or something. I don't know. Brain is foggy. It's all the fog.
I like the storyline, though. It was stupid. The match was only but...
This match was short.
Storyline.
It was like 8 minutes long or less. DK didn't like Ministry Taker? Are you kidding me?
This match. I thought it was very predictable. And yeah, it was very fast, which I think that's a good thing because these two wrestling for a long period of time, I don't think would be too great, honestly.
I did like when Tess pushed the ref into the ropes during when he was on there, old school, whatever you want to call it. And I think that was a good way to break up that move.
Yeah, because he was going for old school and he got dropped back into the ring. That caught me off guard because he usually doesn't get that move broken up like that all too often. For me, I said it was a fast-paced start. I forgot that Taker could actually move that fast. Like this is
because he hasn't lately.
No, he should have retired.
Yeah,
but he was bigger built during this time period for the Biker Taker. He moved. I was shocked. I'm like nailing his spots, hit his normal signatures. I mentioned the crowd always reacts with the American Pride type programs that they book, which what they were going for. I noted that he still had his Sarah tattoo on his neck at this point, so this is pre-Michelle McCool, which was years down the road. I said Test was very aggressive, and it showcased proper powerhouse skills from him. Big Cass is someone that could learn by watching Test tapes, because Test is a big guy. He's no longer with us, sadly. He died way too young. And then also at this point in the pay-per-view, I wanted to note that Jerry the King Lawler did not add much to commentary at all throughout the show. JR was doing both play-by-play and color during this match. And I mentioned to Andrea Lana, it felt like the King was just some casual wrestling fan that you invited over to your house to watch wrestling, and his random things that he would be like, yeah, good move right there, or oh, look at that. It was just one-liners, and JR carried. And DK says Lawler was never good on commentary, but I felt like before they had better back and forth than what was showcased during this night, especially during this match. So I felt, I don't know, did you guys even notice that, or?
No, I didn't really notice that too much, but I think that's because that occurred all throughout the night, so it was kind of normal.
Yeah. I don't know.
Lawler was just there to be a pervert most of the time, and there was no women in the match, so.
And maybe that's just it too. DK says I agree.
In a couple segments.
No, I mean that match there was nobody there for him. And
DK says that Lawler was like a drunk uncle watching the show, making fun of everyone. Yeah, basically. So one of the things that I always try to listen to when I go back and watch old tapes is commentary. I'm always fascinated by commentary. Personally, I always try to improve my commentary stuff because the show that we do. Tuesdays and Thursdays, by the way, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, catch NAW action. So I want to be the best at what I can and capable of doing. So I always listen to, and I would love to have a second person on commentary. It's just not feasible. It's tough over the internet like this, like what we're doing, because there's delay. And then obviously in the times that we're in right now, it's just very tough to have somebody next to me. And Lana won't do it. Blame her. Everyone boo Lana next time you see her.
Boo.
Just kidding, don't do that.
I have an idea, Travis.
You have an idea?
I'll come over. Yeah, I'll sit outside, and you can just turn it up so I can hear you.
You do realize it's going to be winter.
I got coats.
You're not sitting outside.
Yeah, Coach solved everything, duh.
That's how
I told Locke that's how you could come update his character. He could sit outside. You could just push the TV in front so you could look through the window and sit outside and do it. Or you could just buy the game since you have an Xbox.
Neither you guys have this game?
I don't have an Xbox.
What? Anyways, you confuse me.
I don't have an Xbox. I mean, there's no games I want on it. We've discussed this. I had an Xbox 360. There was a lot of great games on that. I didn't see a reason to buy one. I don't care for Halo.
This is not the dosage. We'll discuss that on the dosage. We are the nerds of wrestling. In conclusion, Taker wins after run-ins from the Un-Americans with a boot to the face and chair when Test tried to use a chair. He then lands the tombstone. I give this a 4 out of 5. It hits all the spots. It got the crowd hype. It did what it needed to do. And it was actually a solid match between both of them. It was quick. 8 minutes. Get in, get out.
I'd drop it to 3.5. It was so quick. But Taker, I love Taker. Even this one. One of my all-time favorites. Top 5 easily. Test, not so much.
I'd give it 2.5 stars.
2.5?
Just
Wow.
wasn't for me.
Fair enough. DK says 4.
There we go. Now we disagree.
Let's move on to a match that we can't really give a score because it was unsanctioned. It didn't technically happen under their guidelines. We have the returning, not actual returning to wrestling, but return to WWE, HBK, because, fun fact, he wrestled in the year 2000 for his local promotion in Texas. He was part of a match there. So he actually was not absent for 4 years, like they said, from wrestling, just absent from wrestling for WWE for 4 years. So the promo is what got me immediately back invested and interested. It was like an Enya kind of like weird music thing with like the best of friends.
Yep.
And then Lana's like, oh, this is going to change. There's going to be some weird music and have like the record thing. And then something happens. And it was very, very generic. Like, hey, we're best friends, but now we hate each other. Like it's a story that's been done over and over again. But for whatever reason, it worked perfectly for these two. Thoughts?
Thoughts in the match in general?
Anything.
Why the hell was HBK in cowboy boots? He did great, but
do you remember towards the end of his run,
now.
right as he was transitioning to the commissioner stuff, he was doing He was doing that. He had like a rough beard. He did cowboy boots before he left in the late 90s.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that has to be hard as hell on your feet and to pull some of the moves off.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't want to wrestle in that. That looked uncomfortable. I wouldn't want to wrestle in jeans. Especially for
Triple
a half
H
hour.
was a bloody mess.
Oh, he bladed too deep.
Yeah, I was just like, is he going to pass out? I don't know if I mentioned this. I hadn't seen this pay-per-view at all. I think I mentioned it the other day. I don't know if it was on the last podcast. But I hadn't watched this one because I wasn't watching wrestling at this time. I had gone away from it and just didn't watch.
Yeah, mentioned it when we were talking about what show we were going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I had never seen this one. This was a great match to me. I liked it, even though it was more like a hardcore style, and that's not usually my favorite type, but it was a really good match because I liked both of them. Shawn Michaels is like probably my favorite, like all time.
I mean, were you going to sell the emotion with just a standard match, though?
No.
No, that it was totally called for in this match.
Yeah, and I think that this was probably the best match these two have had against one another. They faced off multiple times, but I personally think that this was their best match together. And then also pointing out Shawn Michaels doing this in cowboy boots and jeans.
Yeah.
It's just so impressive, and it solidifies Shawn Michaels as the great that he is. Triple H looked great in this match.
He was so gassed up, though, man.
This is that prime Triple H, though, that was just so good. This was arguably the best time for Triple H. That 2000 to 2005 time frame.
This is when I absolutely hated Triple H. He was always winning, dominating everything. He was in every storyline he could be in.
Yeah, which that was good and bad, but in the grand scheme of things, making Triple H who he is today, that time frame, he was amazing. And this match was long, but it didn't feel that long. It was about 30 minutes long, and it just seemed to fly by. The near falls were great, and it just all came together so well, even boiling down to the finish where Shawn Michaels is going for Sweet Chin Music and ends up getting caught.
Yeah, I agree.
And then reversing the pedigree into the pinfall.
Yeah,
they know each other so well. They know how to reverse each other's shit.
Yeah, and that finish was great for this rivalry because it didn't make either guy look weak. And this match wouldn't have made either one of them look weak, even if one got completely taken out and pinned for 3 in a normal way. But the roll-up was definitely a great way to go.
No, I agree. And the finish after the actual finish itself with obviously HBK winning, but then Triple H using a sledgehammer twice, commentary selling that, and then HBK getting stretchered out.
Yeah, it was it was very well done. I'll say that.
And this, to me, and what I have to add to me saying that I hated Triple H during this time because he was always doing these things, I hated him because they were selling the heel so effectively that I was tuning in to watch in hopes of him losing. I was that sold on this gimmick that I legit was like, this sucks. He's the ultimate heel. I appreciate heels more now than I did back then. But it was perfect. Like, this is how you should book a heel. And this match brought him into that, and it transitioned him into what led to the success, like you had said, for the years to come. It would segue into Evolution. It would segue into, another match. It would build the rivalry Later that year, I believe it was Summer or Survivor Series, where HBK would win in the Elimination Chamber, which I believe is the first Elimination Chamber. He would win the championship, and then they would go to the 3 stages of Hell match, Triple H and HBK. So their rivalry would continue for months to come. Just good stuff. And this kind of kicked all of that off, and it couldn't have been between 2 better people to do so for these points in their careers. I give this one a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, 2 absolute legends going at it in a brutal match. Hardcore matches are my cup of tea. They always have been, so that ECW style. This took it to that level in multiple different spots in this match. I also would give it a 5.
Yeah, the
I
pacing.
Can agree. 5.
Yeah, obviously unanimous. DK says 4.5. The thing too about hardcore can be done terribly too, where it just is 4 spots. This match was fluid. This match had good chemistry, and it goes with experience, and it showed with their experience. So well-deserved 5 out of 5 from me. We then, unless we have any more we want to add.
No, I think we're good on that.
So we then transitioned to Fink doing a heel promo for whatever reason.
I love Fink. I love Fink so much.
He's great, but what the hell? It was weird. Weird. I get it. Why? Because, again, the brand split. You had competing announcers for jobs then, too, because everybody was in competition with each other. It was a big deal for a brand split. The roster was enormous. So Trish comes out to the ring. We had weird comments about puppies and wieners.
Yeah, so this is another segment that would not fly today with Fink pointing out that Trish has those puppies, in his words. And he says that he has, and he kind of lifts his shirt a little bit, which kind of weird for an old man to do to a younger woman like that, but it's just one of those segments that wouldn't fly these days. That 2002 was a completely different world.
Now, is he speaking on part of his wardrobe, his tuxedo? Is that what you call it, or am I inaccurate with that? Or are you just literally pulling a wiener comment out?
No, you're not inaccurate in that. That's kind of just
the innuendo is the clever, and put air quotes clever because however you want to describe clever there. Cringe, yes. That was weird to watch.
Yeah.
It shows how far we've come to. Like, holy cow. No wonder
why.
Then
we had Lillian Garcia come in and pretty much take out the Fink.
Yep, puts him in his place. That was nice to see. So, well-deserved ending to that angle. And man, I'm glad it was quick.
Yeah.
Because our main event of SummerSlam 2002, the WWE Championship, The Rock, the Brahma Bull, the People's Champion, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, against Brock Lesnar. What do you guys think?
One of the best Brock matches I've ever seen.
Yes, I mean, if you, like Trevor, you said you didn't really watch in this time period. The people that love Brock Lesnar these days are the people that reminisce on those days.
100%.
Brock Lesnar used to be very, very good at everything he did.
He still is.
And he is, but they just don't show it as much now. So if you're one of the people that absolutely hate Brock Lesnar nowadays because he does squash matches nonstop and really doesn't have many good matches anymore, if you go back and go through the archives of this 2002 and even a few years after that, just how good Brock Lesnar was and how many good matches he actually had. He was an absolute prodigy.
Yeah, to kind of add to that too, DK says 4 stars. Brock was great back then and sold. I don't think he's any less great now, The reason I think they've put themselves in the situation for Brock booking that they're in is because he had a match. I don't recall exactly who it was with, but it was a squash match. Potentially Goldberg or somebody. I don't remember who he beat quickly. Was it John Cena? He beat somebody quick because
it wasn't quick, but it was brutal.
No, it was whatever it was a quick one. Because this is when he truly kind of took a turn as far as how they were booking him. Because from there out, like the crowd reacted so crazily that they started booking him like that from there out. There's quick squash matches or quick wins, quick losses. It's just everything fast-paced.
The thing that I remember most is once, like leading into him doing nothing but squash matches, was him absolutely destroying John Cena and absolutely destroying Randy Orton.
Triple H.
And busting Randy Orton open that bad with those elbows. That's really when they started doing the
brutality.
Squash matches nonstop.
Which it worked, but you can't beat a dead horse with it. Like, you can't do it every time because then it loses its value, and I think that's where fans are at with him now.
It's not like those were short matches either. They were squash matches for sure.
Right.
But they weren't as short as the matches you see these days with Brock.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. His more recent ones, they've ruined the luster of that if they're doing it all the time. Because he actually had a really good match against Daniel Bryan at Survivor Series a few years back.
And AJ Styles.
Right. So he can put on solid matches. But going back to the match at hand, Rock Brock here. I said high energy. Rock doing what he does best. Laying down the belt, runs into the ring. So already, just like how the show kicked off, high energy, fast pacing. And then The Rock immediately met with Suplex City. The belly-to-belly suplexes that he was doing to The Rock in this match were incredible. Physical specimen is Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, and how young he was doing this too.
The youngest champion.
Yeah,
Spoiler.
This is when he became the youngest WWE Undisputed Champion.
Yeah.
And he looked so good in this match. Not saying that he didn't look good before this, like absolutely debuting and destroying Spike Dudley, but this
and then the Hardys.
Having a match like this with Brock or with The Rock really solidified him as how Paul Heyman would say the next big thing.
And he carried SmackDown as kind of talking about the future. He's undisputed champion at this point. They brought the WCW into WWE the few weeks after this pay-per-view, and it's when they continued to elevate Triple H. They gave him that belt. Eric Bischoff presented him with that championship, which that led to future storylines. So Brock was technically at this time one of the last undisputed champions, but he is recognized because he won it here as an undisputed champion, and the youngest too at that. I think he was like 25 years old in this match.
Yes.
So I mean, to that,
because his record was broken by Randy Orton.
Right, who was 24, I believe.
Correct.
I love when they both did the kip up and just stared each other down.
That was awesome. Yeah, the timing of that. The thing that
just
go ahead.
Like I keep stressing on it how like little things like that Brock Lesnar doesn't do anymore that he still could do. Just you really can't hate Brock Lesnar with how good he actually was.
I was a fan back then. I'm a fan to this day, and I don't have any shame in saying that. And I love the internet wrestling community and how mad they were getting when Brock was only showing up every now and then, just squashing people, and was the champion for a long ass time. I was loving every second of their hate and anger online. Does that make me a bad person? I was loving it. It was like Cartman licking the tears of Scott Tenorman. Tastes so good.
Oh, God.
Fucking evil. Crow says yes. That makes me a bad person. DKA was one of those.
Yeah, but recapping this match, it was very good. I would give it 4 stars. I don't think it was as good as the match prior to it, but I think it was a great closing match. I did love how Paul Heyman was also kind of in his prime when it came down to stuff like this, where he kicked The Rock on the outside of the
Yeah,
ring.
I kicked him right in the
just
gut.
was-
I was
yeah,
like,
absolute
whoa.
great heel. It was just a great match all around and really good for Brock moving forward.
It was fantastic. I mean, this made, even though his first run in WWE was only 2 years, this made for a great first run for him. The only thing that really sucked was 2 moments. The first being the botched shooting star against Angle at WrestleMania 19, and then his shit fest of a match at WrestleMania 20 against Goldberg. Everyone knew he was leaving, so they were against him.
Both of them.
Both of them were
Yeah.
leaving.
And if
They were
you
against
watch
everybody.
the match back, if you watch that match back with no audio, it's really not that bad of a match.
It's
But
okay. It's okay.
The crowd made it so much worse than it actually was
Oh,
because
they
both guys
hate.
were leaving.
Even
and it
Stone
didn't matter
Cold.
who won.
Even Stone Cold couldn't save that match. That's a fun one to go back and watch every now and then. Something to note on this one too, with people leaving. At this time, The Rock was leaving for a brief hiatus, which turned into a little bit longer than a brief hiatus. This would ultimately help him in his next return angle. He was getting booed. We hadn't seen this from The Rock in quite some time. We hadn't seen Brock Lesnar also getting cheered yet. So this was very strange. I know it's New York, the crowd. The Rock got booed. Brock got cheered. Brock won the title. Rock left. But after the pay-per-view went on the air, I got some facts. The Rock actually cut promos, a heel promo on the fans after the pay-per-view went off the air. Because you notice, too, this pay-per-view ended pretty quickly after Brock won the championship. Like, there was no, hang time or whatever like they do sometimes. It was just, and it's done. The Rock would cut a promo to the crowd there, which you could find on YouTube, I believe. But he would cut a heel promo to the fans, which would lead into his Hollywood angle, where you had the change in music with like the LA aerial shots, if you guys remember this, like the helicopter flying in.
Yeah.
And then it would be like cooking. And it was just like his music. No If You Smell, none of that jazz. This would segue into that angle for him. So it benefited him. It's just funny how they can incorporate stuff like that. So a few facts on this show. For my recap, 15 of the 18 wrestlers were former or future world champions on this show. Kurt Angle insisted on adapting to Rey Mysterio's style in his match. I mentioned earlier that Ric Flair didn't feel he was worthy of winning with the figure four, which he did. Edge was originally set to face Chris Benoit for the Intercontinental title, but because they wanted to shift belts around on shows and kind of line things up, that's why it happened the way it was. Edge initially had reservations about working with Eddie in this one, so he had concerns, just because a lot of the personal issues that Eddie was going through at this point. If you guys don't know the history of Eddie, he struggled with substance abuse and many other things. Shawn Michaels' return match, again, as mentioned earlier, was not his first. He had a match in the year 2000 for his organization. And this was originally only a one-match deal for Shawn Michaels. He was not planning to do more stuff. But because he fell back in love with it, and because of the interest and the pop from the crowd, he would go on, win the championship later that year. If only for 4 weeks, hold it, but they kept him around longer, which I'm glad they did, because these next couple of years before his retirement was some of the best stuff we'd seen with him and his opponents. The Rock was 100% in on putting over Lesnar cleanly in this match, even though I don't think it was all that clean, but as clean as it could be. Brock at the time became the youngest champion for WWE, and as mentioned, The Rock cut a heel promo on the fans after the show. So those are some fun facts that I dug up regarding this show. Anything else you guys want to highlight, or any other things you want to acknowledge?
Really good show overall. I'd probably 4 out of 5 for me overall. If I'd have watched it back then, I'd have probably went a 4.5.
Yeah, this is. I chose this pay-per-view for our first throwback review because this is one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time because of the depth of the card. There was no real terrible matches on the card at all. And like you said, you look back and almost everybody on this entire card is future Hall of Famers. It was just such a good card overall. Having Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio open just right out of the gate, it was hot, and it just continued all the way down and never really skipped a beat.
Yeah, I agree. And the show didn't feel long at any point. Pacing was good. Everything needed to be where it was. I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5 myself. But that is really, with that awkward silence, that is really all I have as far as tonight's show. Trevor, are you interested in deciding the next one? Obviously, you don't have to right now, but are you interested in being the one to pick the next show?
Yeah, I could pick. I don't know which one yet.
That's fine.
I'm not ready.
We'll post on social media.
Yeah, I'll let you know tomorrow or by Tuesday.
Yeah, whenever you have a chance. There's no rush. So we may not do it on our next episode, because our next episode, if we're going to do one next Sunday, is a pay-per-view. So I don't know if the plan is you guys going to do commentary during it, like live reactions, or how you guys are going to do that. I may be skipping that one myself to watch the pay-per-view and then listen to you guys. So DKA or somebody else wants to be the third chair on that one. Obviously, we can figure that out as the week goes on. Or maybe just no show. I don't know what your guys' plan is or thoughts.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll decide.
So stay tuned to social media for that. Of course, you can follow us all over social media, Dose of Nerd Acumen, if you just search for us. As mentioned, we do have a show on Tuesdays and Thursday nights. If you want to be a part of that, is NAW, Nerd Acumen Wrestling, is an interactive fantasy league, computer versus computer, CPU, AI, whatever you want to describe it as. Come check us out one time, or check out our archives to see what we're all about on youtube.com/Dose of Nerd Acumen. We have a convenient playlist with 260 plus episodes now. That's just incredible. But the community is fantastic. Obviously, 2 members of it here with us tonight, Cody and Trevor. So huge shout out for you guys being part of this return journey for the NOW podcast. And really, hopefully, listeners, you guys like what you hear, and tell your friends. I know there are a million wrestling podcasts out there. But there's only one community like ours, and can't give a shout out enough for the supporters of it. So thank you guys for listening, if you are, and those that chat in with us tonight, thank you so much. Anything else you guys want to shout out or promote here?
Nope, just Lockbox on Saturdays whenever he does it. He did say that he had something going on. Oh, there he is in chat. He said he does have something going on Saturday. Doesn't know exactly what it is yet, but we will be doing something. And then NAW and NEW on Tuesdays and Thursday nights. Also, if you play WWE 2K19 or WWE 2K20, I do have a playable league, which is called House of Pain on Facebook. Look us up there. You can join and meet another great community and have some fun playing the game.
Tomorrow, Kevin may be streaming, or we may be doing something else. Something's happening tomorrow, I'm pretty sure.
And if you don't know, we stream on twitch.tv/Dose of Nerd Acumen. Follow the community there. Again, we have a rotating staff of streamers. And if you don't like wrestling, well, for one, why are you listening? 2, there's something for everybody in this community, I promise you that. So if not, pitch us an idea and we'll make something for everybody happen. Because we want everyone to be involved and have fun here. That's the whole purpose of what we do. So if no other closing thoughts, anybody?
Got nothing.
Yep.
Nothing. Well, thank you all for stopping by. We will see you on the next episode of Nerds of Wrestling.
Nerds.
Good night, everybody.